never imagined I'd be spending my nights watching over the dead. But life has a funny way of pushing you in strange directions. After my hours were cut at the warehouse, I found myself desperate for work, bills piling up faster than I could breathe. That's when I stumbled upon a job listing for an overnight security guard position at a small cemetery just outside of Milwaukee. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet, steady, and paid better than nothing. I told myself it would be easy money, just me, a thermos of coffee, and the silence of the graves. The cemetery itself is modest. Tucked away from the main roads, it feels almost forgotten by the world, though the families who rest there are not. It's mostly Catholic, with fewer than 1,000 graves, each one carefully tended. Even in the harshest winters, you'll see fresh flowers, little memorials left by loved ones who refuse to let memories fade. The air always carries a certain stillness, like even time moves a little slower there. For the first several months, my shifts were uneventful to the point of boredom. I'd clock in at 10 p.m., settle into the tiny office by the main gate, and nurse a cup of cheap gas station coffee. At 11 p.m., and again at 3 a.m., I'd make my rounds through the grounds, mostly just to stretch my legs and keep the cold from settling too deep in my bones. The only things that ever kept me company were the occasional deer wandering between the gravestones, and once, a bewildered possum that somehow managed to find its way into the old chapel. But then, as October settled in with its brittle winds and skeletal trees, something changed. At first, it was subtle, little things, unsettling, but easy to brush off. One morning, Frank the groundskeeper, who's been with the place for decades, mentioned finding something odd during his early check. Someone had left a pile of stones on top of a grave. Not just a handful, but dozens of them, carefully stacked, balanced in a way that seemed too precise to be random. A tiny cairn perched atop the headstone of a woman named Elaine P., who had passed away in 2022. Frank chuckled about it, muttering that maybe some local kid was working on a school project about Jewish burial customs. But the grave wasn't Jewish. And the stones weren't the kind of thing you'd expect from a class project. No flowers, no card, just cold, grey rocks. At the time, it seemed harmless. Strange, but harmless. I'd soon learn better. Frank shrugged it off, cleared the rocks, and that was that. But it happened again. And again. Always that same grave. The same stones. Same careful stacking. Frank even put up a little trail cam to catch whoever was doing it. He checked the footage 3 days later and came into the office pale as a sheet. He told me the footage was corrupted, just static from midnight to 3:30 a.m., and then a single frame of the grave at dawn, completely undisturbed. No person, no motion, just the pile of stones like always. I laughed at him, told him it was probably just a glitch, cheap camera, bad SD card, whatever. But then, I started seeing things during my rounds. It was always the same grave. Every time I passed Elaine's plot, I got this weird feeling, like I was being watched. You know that prickly sensation on your neck? I started walking faster past it. At one point, I even stopped doing rounds altogether, just stayed in the office, told myself it was too cold. That worked until I got a call one night from the motion sensor system. One of the perimeter cameras had picked up activity in the north quadrant, Elaine's quadrant, so I forced myself to go check it out. I didn't bring a flashlight. I just used the lantern we kept by the door, the old school kind that hums when it's on. As I walked through the rows of graves, I noticed how quiet everything was. Like dead quiet. No wind, no insects, no sound at all except for the gravel crunching under my boots and the soft buzz of the lantern. When I turned the corner and saw Elaine's grave, I stopped. There was someone standing over it. Just standing, perfectly still, no movement. I froze, couldn't breathe for a second. The lantern shook in my hand. I couldn't make out details, just a figure in dark clothing. Maybe a woman. Long coat, maybe a hood. No flashlight, no bag, just standing there staring down at the grave. I opened my mouth to say something but stopped. I didn't know why, but something in me screamed not to speak. I started backing away slowly. My boots crunched the gravel louder than I wanted. I turned a little to glance over my shoulder just to make sure I wasn't about to trip, when I looked back, the figure was gone. Not walking away. Not hiding. Just gone. I ran back to the office like a coward. Slammed the door, locked it, turned off the lantern. I sat in the dark for the rest of the shift, shaking. The next morning, I told Frank. He looked at me for a long time and finally said, "You're not the first to see her." That pissed me off. I demanded to know what he meant. He told me that before I started, the previous night guy Ray had quit suddenly, left in the middle of a shift, left his keys on the desk, and never came back. Wouldn't answer calls, wouldn't return messages. Frank hadn't mentioned it because he didn't want to spook me. I asked what Ray saw. Frank just said, he said the same thing, someone standing at Elaine's grave. That was when I started digging. I looked up Elaine's obituary online. Nothing strange, died at 46, no cause of death listed, just unexpected, no kids, survived by a sister in Arizona, no mention of a husband. But in the comments section of the online memorial, I found something weird. One comment had been deleted by the moderator, but part of the thread remained. It said, "She always said she didn't want to be buried. She hated the idea of being trapped. She begged to be cremated." Someone else had replied, "Then why did they bury her anyway?" Another user, "Because the sister paid for it. She didn't even come to the funeral." That stuck with me. The idea of someone being put in the ground against their wishes, trapped in a box in frozen earth. I started making rounds again just to prove to myself I wasn't afraid. I started carrying a flashlight, a phone, even a little pocket knife. For weeks, nothing happened. Until last month, the 3rd of April. I'll never forget that date. I was walking the 3 a.m. round when I saw it. Not a person this time, but the grave itself. The headstone was cracked, a thin vertical fracture right down the middle. It hadn't been there the day before. Frank confirmed that the next morning. We both looked at it, tried to figure out how it happened. No tree branches nearby, no tire marks, no animals big enough to cause that kind of damage. We filed a report with the diocese, but they brushed it off as weather damage, said they'd send someone to assess it. That was 3 weeks ago. No one's come. Since then, things have escalated. The door to the chapel has been found open twice. We lock it every night. The motion sensors go off around Elaine's grave regularly now, always between 2 and 4 a.m. And last week, I swear I heard knocking. It wasn't random noise, not the creak of tree branches in the wind or the rustle of a rabbit darting through the underbrush. This was different. This was deliberate. Knocking. 3 slow, heavy knocks. The kind of sound that sinks into your bones. I know what I heard. That night by Elaine's grave, no wind, no animals, just silence until the knocking started. Muffled, steady, like knuckles tapping from beneath the earth. I was 5 feet away. It wasn't Frost. No matter what Frank might say, Frost doesn't knock. Since then, I've been recording my rounds. Every time I pass Elaine's grave, I hit record. Nothing yet. Just silence, too perfect. Like the graveyard is holding its breath, but I won't stop. Something there refuses to rest. There's another memory I can't shake. Weeks ago, I thought I saw a woman by Elaine's grave. Pale, still, blending into the headstones. I told myself she was a mourner, but after those knocks, I wonder what if she wasn't visiting? What if she was trying to leave? I've filed for a transfer, but until it's approved, I'm stuck. Every night, I walk the same path, dreading what I might hear next. Last night, there were 4 knocks, not 3. I don't know what that means, but I'm afraid I'll find out. And moral of the story is, the dead deserve respect. and disturbing their rest can awaken horrors better left buried.